This morning we are concluding our series of Lenten Lamentations. As this Lenten season draws to a close, we conclude our reading of the 23rd Gospel, the 23rd chapter of the Gospel according to Matthew. And I would remind you, as I have shared with you each week, that the lamentations that we are hearing Jesus utter, the lamentations that we are hearing Jesus cry, that these words are not truly at their essence, not words of anger, but words of a grieving and broken heart. So let us hear now the word of our God offered to us in the Gospel according to Matthew. And Jesus said, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" I was watching a drama recently in which the parents of a toddler on a journey were stopped at a rest area, and in the blink of an eye, when the mom turned around, her toddler had disappeared. In the blink of an eye, it happened so quickly, and she was struck with terror, and she was struck with panic, and she was calling the child's name over and over again. Her husband, who had gone to their car for a moment, came back and heard the news, and he too was calling the child's name over and over again as they sought frantically to find their missing child in the midst of the crowds of this rest area. They ran around the interior, they ran outside, they approached countless people, but over and over again they shouted their child's name until finally, after an announcement had been made across the loudspeakers, the child was found by an individual who was at the rest area as well, running in the scene, running back and forth, screaming desperately with panic, with fear, all motivated by love, even as the hearts of these parents were breaking as they sought that one who was most precious to them. There is a story in the Old Testament that, to me, captures this heartbreak as well of loss and desperation. It is the story of King David and his son Absalom. Absalom was one who was a rebellious son, and he sought to take the throne. In fact, he led a revolt against his father, and even pushed his father out, even sent King David and those who were loyal to him fleeing. There came a moment, though, in this tremendous conflict in which Absalom, who was known for his flowing hair, was riding his horse, and he rode underneath a tree, and his hair got tangled in the branches. And so he fell off of his horse, and he was now hanging from the tree. It is written that Absalom was hanging between heaven and earth, and one of David's commanders, upon hearing that this number one enemy was now caught, if you will, by this tree, killed him. When David heard the news that even his rebellious son had died, he cried out like the parents at the rest area, shouting, "Absalom, Absalom, my son, I have lost you." This lamentation, even though Absalom had betrayed him, even though Absalom had turned against him, still David cries out as a father who is weeping, as a father who is experiencing loss. Absalom, Absalom, my son, you are gone. I have lost you. The parents at the rest area calling their child's name out over and over again. Where are you? Where are you? We have lost you. Jesus himself, now at this climactic moment, as he has had these direct encounters with the Pharisees, now at this climactic moment, he turns not simply to the Pharisees, but he turns to the entire city as well. And he calls out, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, like the father and mother at the rest area, like David crying out for his son Absalom, Jesus cries out for a city that has betrayed him. A city that has not only betrayed Jesus, as he says, but has betrayed those who have gone before him, those who God has sent to it. Jerusalem, the Hebrew word, it means that place of peace which God has provided. Jerusalem is to be and has always been that center point in which the presence of God is to be discovered. But Jerusalem now, like Absalom, has abandoned its place. It has turned against God himself, if you will. But Jesus, in this lamentation, we would be wrong to think that he is simply angry at the city, but rather he is weeping for the city. Just as I'm sure David shocked many when many around him heard him weeping for his son who had been killed, even though his son had become his enemy. Jesus weeps over Jerusalem. He calls out upon Jerusalem with a very, very beautiful mood, for he says, I desired to gather children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings. Like the parents at the rest area, like the father of Absalom, here Jesus comparing himself to a mother hen who has sought to shelter Jerusalem in all of these instances, whether it be in this drama that I was watching, or this powerful Old Testament story, or here Jesus is weeping before Jerusalem. In every single case, we see the breaking of a parent's heart for a child who had been lost. That kind of lamentation has a particular intensity to it, of course. That kind of lamentation has a particular poignancy to it. And so if we hear Jesus' words in keeping with David who has gone before him, we can understand that this is the cry of this Son of God who is not angry at his core, but rather this is the Son of God who is heartbroken at his core. Jesus goes on to say in this moment of great heartbreak, this moment in which he sees the city lying desolate because of its rejection, he says, and you are well familiar with these words, He says, "For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" Familiar words, aren't they? Jesus quotes the psalmist with these words. We know that these words are proclaimed when Jesus arrives in Jerusalem itself on that Palm Sunday, when the people understand at that moment that, this is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. But here we see these words uttered in a very different mood. Here Jesus is saying, "You will not understand me until I come again, until I return, until I come and deliver you." That's what makes this passage so particularly poignant. It also is what makes this passage, in the midst of heartbreak, still full of hope. Because there will be a reunion. There will be a reunion. Just as the parents at the rest area were reunited with their child, even after their child has wandered off and disappeared, Jesus is saying here to Jerusalem, "You have rejected the prophets who have gone before me. You have rejected me and you have broken my heart. But there will be a day in which we will be reunited. And the voice of the city will be, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" The heartbreak that Jesus experiences, the desolation that covers the city, is going to be transformed. It is going to be transformed. And we end this series on this note, that a lamentation ultimately is going to be transformed into a song of joy. Not yet, but it will be transformed into a song of joy. Because, like the parents who did not give up at the rest area, like David, whose heart was broken in the midst of loss, even though he had been betrayed, Jesus, who experiences the desolation of the city in its rejection of him, still he does not give up. But there is this relentless pursuit. There is the hen that always wishes to gather its little chicks beneath its wings. There is always that parent that wishes to gather up their child within their arms when they have gone missing. And Jesus uses these images to demonstrate to us something very, very significant about the character of God. That God is like that mother hen. That God is like that mother hen who will not rest until all has been gathered together. Of course, you know the Good Shepherd, Jesus, when he says he is the Good Shepherd, unlike other shepherds who will say, I gathered 99 out of 100 sheep, that's pretty decent. No, the Good Shepherd gathers them all. The Good Shepherd gathers them all. The mother hen here will not rest until the entire flock is gathered beneath her wings. God will not rest until all of God's people are brought together. And that is why this passage can speak so powerfully to us. Did you know that God is calling you by name and that God is seeking you? So often we think about the spiritual life, people will say, well, have you been seeking God in your life? And sometimes we answer yes. Sometimes we're not sure. Sometimes the spiritual life seems so distant and remote for us. Sometimes we even ask, what does it even mean to seek God? It can be very confusing. And it's a loaded question. I'm sure you've had that question posed to you. But here is the good news. What we see in the gospel is that perhaps the deepest realization is that God is seeking us. God is like the parents at the rest area, searching and searching. God is like David, grieving when there seems to be loss. God is like, of course, Jesus weeping over this city, a lost city. God is like the mother hen coming and looking to gather her wings to bring us to safety and shelter. God is that good shepherd who comes to find us. This is perhaps the deepest truth, the most sublime realization at the core of the spiritual life. That it ultimately is this profound recognition that we have been named, that God knows us by name, and that God is crying out for us. God is lamenting when we are so far away. But God is calling and calling and calling, and will not give up, will never ever give up. And that is what is happening here at this moment. Jesus says, "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem," the city had a vocation to be that place of peace. But Jesus says, "Jerusalem, you have wandered so far away. You have stoned the prophets. You have killed those who have come before me. Even now you reject me." Wow, you would think that God would just wash his hands of this city. The opposite is the case, because a mother hen would never give up on its chicks. A parent would never give up on its child. A parent would always keep seeking until that child is found. The good shepherd will never give up on missing sheep number 100. But there is no rest until all are gathered. And there will be no rest until all of creation is gathered together. This lamentation of Jesus, it is a cry of a broken heart, but it becomes the revelation of a heart that may be broken, but a heart that is driven by love to bring all things home, to restore Jerusalem, to restore the people who have walked away, to find the people who have turned their backs, to find the people who are lost and maybe don't even realize they're lost, to find the people who don't know where to look or don't know how to make sense of it all. The role of the good shepherd, the role of the mother hen, is not ultimately to say, "Why did you run away? Where have you been?" But rather, like I saw in this drama, the role is simply to say, "Oh, thank goodness I have found you. Oh, I was so scared, but now I've got you." Those are the words of the parent who is filled with delight and relief. Simple joy. "Oh, whew, I've got you again, and I'm never letting you go." That's what the parent says. That's what the good shepherd says. That's what the mother hen says. And that's what our God, revealed in Jesus Christ, proclaims to the world. "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, my heart is broken, but Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I will make you whole again. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, where have you gone? Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I will find you once more." That is the word of God to each and every one of us, calling us by name. Where have you gone? Where are you now? Where are you? I will find you, and I will wrap my arms around you, says the living God. And at that moment, and at that time, I will never, ever let you go. You will never be lost, but you will be returned to the safety, the security, and the peacefulness of the sheepfold, where all are welcomed one with another. Amen.